Todd Meadows, one of the stars of the hit fishing reality show Deadliest Catch, has died. He was 25. The tragic details surrounding the death have been revealed.
He kissed his 3 sons goodbye, stepped onto a crab fishing vessel in one of the most dangerous waters on Earth, and never came home. Todd Meadows was just 25 years old, a young father, a rookie deckhand, someone who walked into a job knowing it was risky, but never expecting it would be his last time saying goodbye.
That 25-year-old Meadows, a crew member, had fallen overboard approximately 170 miles north of Dutch Harbor.
What makes this story even harder to process is that it didn't happen quietly out at sea. It happened on camera. Every second of it was captured while filming Deadliest Catch. Now, the captain of that vessel, Rick Shelford, finds himself at the center of one of the most closely watched investigations in the show's history. Because what happened on February 25th, 2026, is no longer being seen as just a tragic accident. The man behind the wheel. To understand how things reached this point, you need to understand who Rick Shelford is. He didn't arrive in this industry through television. Fishing was part of his life long before cameras were involved. His grandfather helped establish Alaska's commercial fishing industry after immigrating from Norway, and it became a family legacy. Like most captains, he started at the bottom, working as a deckhand through long hours, freezing temperatures, and constant danger. Over time, he worked his way up, eventually becoming captain of the Aleutian Lady, a vessel deeply tied to his family's history. By 2012, he was managing multiple vessels across Alaskan waters. When he joined Deadliest Catch in 2023, audiences quickly noticed his aggressive, competitive style. At first, that intensity made him stand out. Looking back now, some of those moments feel different. The warning no one took seriously. Long before Todd Meadows stepped onto the Aleutian Lady, there was a moment that should have raised concerns. Veteran Captain Sean Dwyer was brought in to co-captain alongside Shelford. When he boarded, something immediately felt off. He didn't stay quiet. He spoke openly on camera, describing the operation as chaotic, questioning whether the boat should even leave, and saying corners were being cut. Those aren't casual statements from someone with his level of experience. Shelford dismissed the concerns, so Dwyer made a decision that, in hindsight, feels significant. He walked away, stepped off the boat before it ever left the dock. The injury that changed everything. Todd Meadows had grown up around fishing, working alongside his father from a young age. He joined Deadliest Catch in May 2025 as a rookie deckhand, bringing a warmth that made people feel comfortable, someone who mattered deeply to those around him. But weeks before his death, something happened that would become a critical part of the story. While working on the Aleutian Lady, Todd suffered a head injury serious enough to be diagnosed as a concussion. He was medically evacuated and sent home to recover, and that would be the last time his family ever saw him alive. Eventually, he was cleared by a doctor and returned to the same boat, the same environment, and the same physically demanding conditions of the Bering Sea. But that raises a difficult question. In a job involving long hours on slippery decks, heavy equipment, freezing temperatures, and constant motion, how much margin for error is there really? Technically, he was cleared. But realistically, was it enough? The moment everything changed. On February 25th, 2026, at around 5:05 p.m., Todd Meadows went overboard. The cameras were rolling. Every second was captured. The crew pulled him from the water after about 10 minutes. But in the Bering Sea in winter, 10 minutes is an incredibly long time. Hypothermia begins almost immediately. The body shuts down faster than most people realize. By the time Todd was back on deck, he was unresponsive. They performed CPR. It didn't work. Todd Meadows died on that boat. His body was later transported for autopsy, but the official cause of death had not yet been released. The entire incident was recorded, and now his mother is fighting to ensure that footage is never shown publicly, because some moments aren't meant to be watched. They're meant to be remembered privately. More than just one tragedy. Since Deadliest Catch began in 2005, at least 24 people connected to the show have died. Some were lost at sea, others from health issues, accidents, or personal struggles. Entire crews have been lost when vessels capsized. Others disappeared into the ocean, never found. These aren't isolated incidents. They form a pattern. And with Todd Meadows' death, that pattern is becoming impossible to ignore. The investigation that could change everything. Following Todd's death, the Coast Guard launched an official investigation, and it won't be resolved quickly. Investigators are examining every detail: the prior concussion, the decision to return to work, the warnings raised by another captain, and the overall conditions on the Aleutian Lady. If safety protocols were not properly followed, or risks were ignored, the consequences could extend far beyond a single incident, affecting Shelford personally, his company, and how Deadliest Catch operates going forward. A system under pressure. Commercial fishing is already one of the most dangerous professions in the world. But when you introduce television into that environment, something changes. There's pressure, not just to do the job, but to capture it, to make it compelling. And even if no one says it out loud, that pressure can influence decisions. Because now, it's not just about catching crab, it's about creating a story. And when those two things overlap, the line between necessary risk and unnecessary danger can start to blur. What this means for Rick Shelford. Rick Shelford started that day like any other. It was his birthday. By the end of it, a 25-year-old father of 3 had died on his boat. He addressed the tragedy publicly, calling it the most devastating day in the history of his vessel. He didn't deny what happened or try to distance himself from it. But even without criminal charges, this moment is now tied to everything he has built: his career, his reputation, his legacy. What comes next? Todd Meadows' death has forced a conversation that can no longer be avoided. Not just about one captain or one incident, but about the entire system behind it. Because the real question isn't just what happened, it's what happens next, and what accountability should actually look like when reality television intersects with real-life consequences. A family lost a father, a crew lost a teammate, and a captain is left carrying a moment that will never fade. This story isn't over. And as the investigation continues, one thing is clear: the outcome won't just affect one person. It could change everything.